So the question is, what's happening with Watcher Entertainment? Many fans have been asking themselves this very question, so let's talk about it. The former BuzzFeed employees Stephen Lim, Ryan Bagara, and Shane Madej started Watcher Entertainment 4 years ago in an effort to branch away from BuzzFeed. Now, what we all know about BuzzFeed as a company from previous employees is not so nice. So when specifically Shane and Ryan decided to make their big move, lots of fans were thrilled with the decision. Following them from BuzzFeed Unsolved to their new platform on YouTube titled Watcher. When a countdown began to an exciting announcement on the channel, many fans were super excited, and rumors began to spread of potential collaborations. Suggestions ranging from Good Mythical Morning, Dan and Phil, and Smosh. When the countdown finally reached completion, a video dropped. And rather than being the exciting news most fans were hoping for and expecting, the title was Goodbye YouTube. The video opened with an almost documentary-esque shot of the exterior of Watcher offices, and continued in a very documentary style setup of each of the individual men sitting in chairs and recounting their time on YouTube. Stephen Lim specifically and Ryan Bagara each lauded their time at BuzzFeed for launching their careers. They talked about how excited they were that their fans had followed them to Watcher, and were hoping that their fans would follow them again in this next big step. While many fans were already apprehensive, the rest of the video did nothing to dissuade that. Watcher announced that they were going to be going behind a paywall to a private streamer, much like Dropout TV, despite having less than a third of Dropout TV's subscribers and years of experience. Anyone who knows the internet knows that College Humor has been around for a very long time and has earned every single piece of goodwill they have from their audience. Also, in the video, they make it clear that only trailers and the first episodes of each show would be available for watching on their YouTube. Everything else would be behind the paywall. Even their Patreon would be getting overhauled, with only episodes of their podcast, which had not been doing well on YouTube, being available on Patreon. They followed this up by stating that they had hired new cast members, being Stephen Lim's former co-stars of his BuzzFeed show Worth It, where they try the most expensive food and services in the world to see whether or not they are worth it. This sparked some outrage as they're citing the reason for their move to this new streamer as being because they can't afford to make the level of content they want to. As Stephen Lim is the sole CEO of Watcher Entertainment currently, despite the fact that they used to all three be CEOs, a lot of the backlash fell on him. Specifically because, as many netizens felt the need to voice, not many of us fans came for Stephen Lim. In fact, a lot of fans did not know he was actually a founder or even cast member until after he started doing the bartending on Too Many Spirits. Sidebar on Too Many Spirits, which would be continuing on the streamer, relies on free farmed content from fans, as they had already begun farming this content from fans for this next upcoming season that left a lot of people going, so if you choose my story, I have to pay to see it? That doesn't seem very fair. But many people were not very happy with Stephen Lim and decided to make that very, very painfully clear. I would like to state that I pretty much equally blame each of the men for this choice, as all three of them are founders and have shares in the company, and they probably could have gone, hey, maybe this isn't such a good idea. Especially Shane Eat the Rich Midday, who in the video did suggest sharing subscriptions to the service, which Stephen Lim did not look happy about. A lot of fans that were in favor of the streamer, which was not a large percentage of Watcher fans as a whole, decided to cite that Dropout had succeeded. And while I at least was a fan of both, I do not see a lot of similarities between how they handled the situations. I was, however, also a huge fan of Rooster Teeth animation. And Rooster Teeth happened to have made a very similar decision and recently announced that they are going under. The difference being that Rooster Teeth originated as a self-owned site and later moved to YouTube. It's very, very easy to get caught up in the minutia and be like, well, it could work. When you look at how many of their fans were protesting this change and saying, this is not going to work, that pretty much means it's not going to work. Because without the fans subscribing, the streamer is just spending money. Now, this streaming service would be on the same platform as Dropout TV, but once again, these content would be completely separate. You would only be getting Watcher content. And Watcher has a total of 377 videos on their channel, 17 of which are simply promotions, including Welcome to Watcher and all trailers and promotions for their live show and each of their individual shows on the channel. Whereas Dropout TV has thousands of videos on their YouTube channel. And College Humor has a wealth of content on the internet. It's very easy to look at Watcher and go, well, they have millions of fans, so I don't see why something like this couldn't work. Because the answer is fairly simple. Having millions of subscribers on YouTube doesn't really add up to millions of people willing to pay for your content. As we soon discovered when their subscriber count started dropping almost immediately following the release of their video. People watching on Social Blade could see that they were losing thousands of subscribers every hour. Watcher used to have over 3 million subscribers. Now they have just over 2,800,000. So that's a pretty big difference, especially when you consider that YouTube revenue is determined based on how many subscribers you have as well as how many viewers. So while the video, Goodbye YouTube, was of length to be monetized and did in fact have ads and was making money based on views, it was not in fact going to make as much money as they were losing countless, well, not countless, you could count it, I'm not going to, subscribers. When you look at the difference between a channel like Watcher and a channel like Good Mythical Morning, College Humor, or even Smosh, you see that there is a large discrepancy between the amount of crew they hired and the amount of talent they have. And I'm not saying that the men who work there aren't talented. I'm saying that there aren't many people featured on camera that are exclusively members of Watcher. Because you see, they have a lot of guests, right? And there's nothing wrong with having a lot of guests on a YouTube channel. I actually think it makes the content more diverse and engaging. But I also think that if you're going to make as big a change as this, you need to be able to make more content in less amount of time. Like, Dropout drops an episode every weekday. A new episode of a show every weekday. You can't do that with 3 people. You look at companies like Smosh with about 15 cast members and several people who are not cast members but appear regularly in videos, and you look at groups like Good Mythical Morning or Dropout TV and you go, I don't really see how 3 men could replicate this. And that's because they can't. Lots of people are seeing that they've already shelled out the money for Stephen Lim's new Worth It show. Because in the video, they include what's essentially a trailer for Stephen's new show, where it shows him and his friends goofing around, and at one point he drops what looks like a wrap of some kind, like a gyro or a taco, and it falls on the street and they're laughing. And when you think about the kind of content that Worth It was and this new show is supposed to be, you go, how many hundreds of dollars just fell on the floor and they're laughing about it? They're also needing to recoup costs from their new international Ghost Files, which they're filming while they do their international branch of their Ghost Files Live. So it's easy to see why they see the need for this new monetized version of their YouTube channel, but it's also very easy to go, you didn't have to do any of that. No one went, make this content, you know? Most of us didn't want a new Stephen Lim food show. And that was shown in the views of his other food shows. Also, a lot of viewers are referring to Stephen Lim as Mr. Tesla because he brags about the fact that he drives a Tesla, like, a lot. And clips have resurfaced of Stephen saying that he stays friends with racists because he thinks he can change their views. He said this during 2020. When the channel first started on their podcast. And people are like, that's kind of icky, Mr. Lim. And while the reception for this video, Goodbye YouTube, was already bad, it would only get worse as their silence continued over the weekend. Many fans were not even bringing up their wives, Mari and Sarah, because they weren't involved, so why bring them up? Until Sarah Madej made a post on Tumblr. She seemed in full support of Watcher's new decision, and went as far as to include in her tags, as any Tumblr user knows are more than just tags to find content. They're really used as a way to continue your post without having it in the main body of the post. People seem to think that all YouTubers have Mr. Beast money, and they don't. Which seemed rather tone-deaf and insensitive considering the fact that all of these men live in SoCal, specifically Hollywood, on purpose. They film in Ryan's parents' backyard for Too Many Spirits using free liquor that they get as PR, and it just didn't seem very genuine or like she cared what the fans' reaction was. Which, when juxtaposed with the video that dropped today, it seemed confusing, as all of the men claimed to feel remorseful about the fact that the fans were not happy. I say claimed because some of the facial expressions looked more like we got caught than we're sorry. But a lot of people are saying that it's a very good apology and that they're very happy that they're going back on their original decision. When the video first dropped, many fans rushed to go see what the video entitled An Update could possibly be about. And while we knew it was going to be addressing the situation, we didn't know what tactic they were going to take, especially when the thumbnail featured 3 male YouTubers who formerly worked at BuzzFeed sitting on a couch. Stephen Lim's posture in the thumbnail almost identically mirrors Eugene from the Try Guys video, What Happened. Brought so many fans who were still subscribed rushing back to it, while those of us who were not still subscribed had to wait for someone to say something later to notice that we had something to go see. I had unsubscribed from Watcher the day after Goodbye YouTube dropped because they had not responded to any of their fans' concerns, and I found that to be super weird for a bunch of guys who claimed that their fans were kind of like their everything. So to see that they obviously didn't care about what fans were saying put me off. And as I was already kind of just a casual viewer, I only really watched Top 5 Beatdown, I didn't really see any reason to stay subscribed. But when I finally saw an update, I was shocked. The 3-minute long video reads as a kind of backtrack from what they were originally saying, and definitely not in line with what Sarah posted on Tumblr. And while it's so easy to say like, oh, I wouldn't have done that, but like, I don't know what I would have done. I don't have a huge following on anything. I don't know how I would handle that, and I'd never try to paywall anything because I get ticked off about paywalls all the time. So that would be like super crappy for me to do. But I don't know. It just seemed like they weren't really sorry. They were just losing money. So they had to figure out a way to stop hemorrhaging money at least. Because that's what was happening. As they lost subscribers, they were losing capital. Their choices obviously weren't working. And many Patreons had expressed their disapproval of this new move by stating, you want me to pay $6 a month on 2 separate services and only get your podcast on one of the services? And a reminder, the podcast was not doing great on YouTube. So in the new video, they announced that the Patreons will be getting a subscriber like code, I guess, so they can just access Watcher, the streamer, and that they will be only, basically it's Patreon with extra steps. So they're releasing the content a month ahead of time on the streamer, and then you get it a month later on YouTube, which is kind of how Dropout TV works. They start releasing old content from the streaming platform on YouTube like once the new season is starting. And I think that's just a really good model. So I was kind of confused as to why they weren't doing that to begin with. But I digress. So people are very interested in seeing how their live shows in the UK are going to go. Because, let me tell you, Irish people don't like feeling like they've been duped. So they have a show coming up this weekend in somewhere in Ireland, and I can't wait to see what the fan reception is. So a lot of people in the comments seemed to really accept their apology and fully believe what they're saying, but I have a few thoughts on that, because it wasn't really an apology. It wasn't even really taking accountability. It was more like, okay, fine, you win, which I don't mind winning. I like winning. But I also don't like feeling like I'm being talked down to, which is kind of what parts of the video felt like. In the video, all 3 men are sitting on the couch with Steven on one side, Shane in the middle, and Ryan on the other. Whereas in the first video, Goodbye YouTube, we had Steven, Ryan, Shane, with Shane's legs crossed away from the other 2 men. In this video, everyone seems to be pretty comfortable, except Steven has like hella eye bags, which isn't really normal for him. Like, he's always a little bit disheveled. That's like part of his charm, I guess. He's like very much little guy, little wet kitten energy.
Rephrase.
No. But to see them all sitting there, various stages of being slightly uncomfortable, slightly upset with the situation, it didn't feel like they were upset that they had done something wrong. It felt like they were upset that people weren't letting them do the thing they wanted to do. And a lot of people have been sort of absolving Shane and Ryan of guilt in this situation. Guilt, because they're YouTubers, they're going to do what they're going to do. It's not really morally wrong, I guess. But I think that's not the move here, because obviously all three of these men thought this move was going to work. They thought $6 a month for maybe, I did the math.
Wasn't it like 7 and a half?
Maybe 7 videos. So about a video a week was gonna be peachy keen. Everyone was gonna love that. And I do not love that. Like I said, with Dropout TV, you're getting 5 videos a week of different and varied content with different creators, all of whom are very open and differ personality-wise and are engaging, as opposed to 3 men doing maybe 7 videos a month. And I don't think the two are comparable. There are no credits. Like, usually in a Watcher video, I think the credits play at like the end of the video, and you can see like who the crew was on said video. But this 3-minute long video has no credits, and they're not even in the drop down in the description, which is how Smosh does it. And I don't know, I just thought it was weird that after announcing that they've hired all this crew, and they obviously have 3 or 4 cameras working, that it's like we don't get to know what's going on with the crew situation anymore, I guess. Like, obviously I'm not saying that they're not gonna credit going forward. I have no way to know that. I don't hang out at Watcher HQ in Hollywood, California. That's not my life. I'd rather die than spend my life hanging out in California. But I just feel like it's a weird move, personally. I also think that the comments were really quick to forgive them when they stayed silent on this matter for 2 days. They didn't even say, hey, we're gonna talk about this on Monday. They didn't even say, we're listening, we're hearing you, on any platform. It felt weird. And I know I keep saying that, but I just don't have any other word for it. Like, why would you stay so quiet when your entire fan base is going, stupid move, stupid move, stupid move, and you've got maybe, what, 8%, 10% of your fan base going, yeah, we'll follow you. We'll follow you onto this other platform that costs way more money than most people would be able to afford for a single YouTube channel. They also don't promote their Patreon. Like, most channels are like, hey, join our Patreon for this thing, or that thing on a regular basis. Watchers promoted it like by speaking like 2 or 3 times. Like I said, I'm not a huge avid Watcher fan, but I have recommended Watcher to several people over the years, and I just felt like I was being turned into kind of like a liar because I never would have recommended them had I known this move was coming. Had I known they were gonna do whatever this was. Because it was not the move. Ooh, dramatic lighting. Scary stories to tell in the dark. Used to be quite vocal about being like a Shaniac. And then as Watcher went on, and they're like, they did what they claimed to have wanted to do from the beginning, and like their production value got really big, and they stopped being like 2 guys just running around. Apparently 3 guys. I was one of the people who deadass did not know that Stephen Lim
I had no idea.
founded Watcher. I followed the Ghoul Boys, Ryan and Shane, from BuzzFeed Unsolved. I was a huge BuzzFeed Unsolved fan, and I don't know. I was not a Stephen Lim fan. I don't know any Stephen Lim fans, but I mean, if you're a Stephen Lim fan, no shade. He just is not my favorite person all the time, especially after all this. Also, he has family that lives in Malaysia, and it's like 30 Malaysian, whatever they're called, to pay for the Watcher subscription. So, just FYI. That's, like, the conversion rates in some places are insane. And he was, in the original Goodbye YouTube video, he said something everyone can afford. Everyone where?
Everyone
Because
with Tesla.
USD shirt, $6. We're in a recession, Steven. $6, kind of more important right now than it was maybe when you started this channel. But like I said, I'm not a YouTube guy. I don't know things. So maybe $6 is the lowest they could go. But I do want to say, like, Patreon, you can have tiers for as low as $1. You can have free tiers, but then paid tiers can go as low as $1. And so you can have, like, they could do Patreon in tiers and be like, oh, for $1 a month, you get, like, bloopers or just the podcast, since they obviously want to put the podcast somewhere. So for $1 a month, you get the podcast. For $3 a month, you get the podcast plus bloopers. For $6 a month, you get the podcast, bloopers, and behind-the-scenes content. And for, like, $10 a month, you get the podcast, bloopers, behind the scenes, and early access to certain content. And bam, they're making more money. Like, I follow so many creators with Patreons who obviously are doing fine for themselves. So I've been looking at creators who, like, share how much such and such makes, and, like, you can see how many Patreon people they have, and they're making so much money on Patreon, and they're making so much money on YouTube that it makes you go, where is this money going? Because it kind of feels more like their spending habits are what's bad than they don't have the money. You know, like, they're spending irresponsibly or stupidly, or I don't know. They're just not spending in the way they should be, and that's causing them to feel like they have no money when they have money, and they're just putting it in stupid places. And I feel like they're like, oh, well, this show might do better on the streamer than it did on YouTube, and it's like, I think you're forgetting that things that do bad on YouTube do bad because your audience didn't like it. And, like, sure, maybe that portion of your audience that liked it will watch it on the streamer, but what gets views on the streamer isn't going to affect your income because it's a flat rate. So maybe think about that a little bit. I also don't feel like they'd be making, like, $6 a month from all of their subscribers back when they had 3 million subscribers. I don't think would be that different than the amount of money they were making on YouTube and Patreon combined. And they're like, oh, we want to get away from ad-based content where we have to, like, pander to brands. And I'm like, I've never really noticed you guys pandering to brands, personally. You guys say unhinged shit all the time. Freaking Shane said he wanted to fuck Miss Bianca from The Rescuers. That doesn't feel like pandering to me. Unless
Pandering to Miss Bianca.
I was gonna say, unless Miss Bianca's started her own lifestyle brand, a la, what's her face? Gwyneth Paltrow. What would her goop be? What would her goop be?
I'm horrified by this.
line of thought. I'm getting derailed. I need to lock in. But yeah, it seemed like it was a bad move from the beginning. It seemed like they weren't being responsible with their money and were expecting their followers to foot the bill on things their followers never signed up for. And in the end, it was obviously a bad idea and they had to backtrack it. And I don't think that we as fans, we as internet people, should move past this too quickly. I think this is something that specifically needs to be kept in the public conscious so we remember that they did this if they ever pull some shit like this again. Or just really pull any shit again, because we're side-eyeing them now, guys. We should be paying attention. Everything they do should be scrutinized a little bit. Be like, but why'd you do that, though? But why'd you do that, though? And I don't feel like that's unfair. I feel like once you lose the trust of your fan base, you have to do more than just apologize to earn it back. Because if you look at fan bases that have fallen apart in the past, it's because they've just let their creators walk all over them and then just get away with it with an apology. Because, oh my god, guys, they apologized. Why are you being so mean? And I'm not saying bully them. I'm saying keep an eye on them. Make sure that they don't overstep again. Because while, yes, we as the public make all celebrities famous, we especially make internet micro celebrities famous. Because without viewers, they have nothing. And, like, real celebrities can survive without die-hard fans. Internet celebrities need us. And since they need us, they need to respect us. And sometimes it feels like we let people who don't respect us get away with a lot. Food for thought. So once again, I'm not saying that any hate has been deserved. I'm saying this has been what's happening. And to just sit there and let Mr. Tesla and the Ghoul Boys forget about this would be a mistake. Because at the end of the day, Watcher was created to be a way for them to own their own content. A way for them to be out from under BuzzFeed's shadow and creating their own content. And I just don't think they understand that their fandom has been around since they were just yellow and blue text on a black background. And do not care about TV level production. That's not what anyone followed them for. And it's not what anyone would care to pay $6 a month for. It's just not worth it to pay $6 a month for content that you might not even like that much. Because let's be honest, most people like Watcher for like 2 or 3 shows. And I don't care, even if they bring back Puppet History. I'm going to be wary with watching Watcher for quite a while now. Not to say that I will never go back, but I will be focusing my attention more on creators that have been around a lot longer and spent more time fostering goodwill. Yeah, to reiterate, Watcher almost nuked their entire channel by going, hey guys, you know it'd be fun if you paid for YouTube content that we've been giving you for free for 4 years to foot the bill on a bunch of things that we've decided you guys want instead of asking. And their fandom went, no, actually, you won't. And they backtracked days later, and now their fandom is split between people who are saying, oh, we should forgive them because they apologized and they're changing their plan and they're listening to their fans, and people who are saying, That doesn't mean they get to expect their apology to be accepted right away. That's not what that means. Just because they apologize doesn't mean we have to immediately go, oh, you're fine, guys. It's best to keep them on their toes. And I've already made it pretty clear which side of that spectrum I fall on. Once again, I'm not saying Watcher has turned into an unwatchable, horrible entity or whatever. That's not what I'm saying at all. I watch Smosh. I don't really have much room to talk. But I am saying that Watcher and Watcher fans should be very careful in the coming months about what they say, how they react, and how they treat each other. Because, once again, there is no Watcher without the fans, and there are no fans without Watcher. It's very much a symbiotic relationship, and to pretend that one can exist without the other is pure vanity. Bless you.
Thank you.
I'm not trying to be like, oh, your fans made you, you owe them something. But your fans made you. You can't expect them to feel like they owe you something. They especially don't owe you $6 a month for content they've been getting for free this whole time. Since that's all I have to say on the matter, I'm going to finish my look and I'll be back in the end. And so yeah, that's everything that's going on with Watcher, and this is my makeup. So if you didn't hate me or hate this video, you should like, comment, and subscribe. And if you did hate me or this video, say so in the comments. Go ahead.
You have
Say
your
it.
Ethan Nestor voice, and it's vaguely threatening.
Bye-bye.